another episode of the Daily Combat Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Stockbridge, and joined as always, or at least for the second time, is Izzy Rossitano.
Hello.
Matthew Connolly.
Howdy.
And our very, very first time feature athlete here today is Greg Hearne. Thanks so much for joining us, Greg.
All right, thanks for having us.
First and foremost, DFC coming up 1st of August.
Yep.
Huge event. You're deeply involved in it. Share with everybody what's going on then.
Yeah, cool. No worries. So very excited to be returning to the home of DFC, Adelaide Oval, so up in the William McGarry room. Obviously, we'll be back there from August 1st. Matches starting to be released now. So off the top of the head, we've got Nick Edwards versus now I'm going to look like an idiot. Fella from Melbourne. Good. It's going to be a good scrap. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Craig's lined up a banger for that one, and then we've also got Priscus and Declan Moody doing a BJJ Super Grapple as well. So it's going to be a cracker. We'll be releasing more matches as we sort of start to get closer to the date. But yeah, no, it's going to be great. Great to be home, that's for sure.
Mate, it's been a long time. So since the last one, over a year?
Over a year for the DFC. So DFC the last DFC we held was in February 2020.
Another world away.
So yeah, that was a long time ago. And then obviously we've had Apex since then. Obviously start of this year, in February. And then we'll be looking to obviously replicate Apex either at the end of this year or start of next year. Just trying to figure out around the schedules for obviously ovals, etc.
So for those that haven't been to DFC before, it's held in the McGarry room. So there's about 1,100, 1,200 fight fans in the room?
Yeah, about 1,100, 1,200 fight fans can get in there and see some MMA live action here in Adelaide. It's great.
The atmosphere in that room is electric, and especially when you've got some big fights on, as I know Craig's working on it at the moment. So it's sure to be an absolutely fantastic night. So if people haven't already done so or are just finding out about the DFC event coming up now, they can head over to diamondbackfc.com.au for their tickets.
Yep. No AU, just .com.
Just .com?
Yeah.
So diamondbackfc.com.
Yeah.
Head straight over there, book your tickets nice and early. Make sure you get one of those very exclusive VIP tickets if you can. They don't last long. So make your way over to the website and book yourself a ticket now. So, Greg, tell us a little bit about your history. How is it that you got started in MMA and your fight journey so far?
My fight journey so far and how I got started. Okay, well, all right. So my involvement in combat sports here in SA is probably not as storied or as interesting as some. I didn't train martial arts from an early age. I sort of got to the age of 29 and I went through some life-changing moments and I made a list of 30 things that I wanted to do before I turned 30.
Right.
And one of those things was to have a professional fight. I guess similar to Matt, I was involved in the security industry here in SA in some way, shape or form for around about 15 years. And so I've had probably plenty of fights, but never had the opportunity to test myself in a combat sports arena against someone who was there for exactly the same reason. You know, like I punched on with plenty of pissed dickheads and thrown people out of clubs and probably fought people over the stupidest things in the whole wide world. but I didn't really consider them fights, So I wanted to test my mettle and go, well, this is probably something that I think I can do. I'd probably felt I had a bit of a tough guy reputation, and I wanted to kind of validate that, not to anyone else but myself, to sort of say, look, this is something I can do. It's a bit of a journey to get in there and obviously compete. To get cracking, I just drive past this joint every day. I wouldn't actually drive past it. I'd drive past this sign. I'm not too sure. Our old gym was off of Maxwell Road, in the sort of back end of sort of Para Hills and Parafield. So I'd drive past this sign every day, MMA gym, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go check that out. So I did, and I rolled in and, like a bit of a peacock, strutted in and was like, hey, I know how to fight. How's this going to happen? And pretty much that's how I met my business partner, Craig, and he's looked at me and gone, all right, well, you look like you'd be all right. How about you come back here for sparring tonight at 7:00.
And had you had any formal training or just doing security work?
Just doing security, yeah. And just, and everyone knows how to throw a punch, but no one knows how to throw a punch.
Yeah.
So I can hit stuff, but now I was going to learn how to hit stuff properly. And so I come back for sparring that night. some of the boys touch me up a little bit. I'll be honest. Got
the ego get a little bit dented.
But then I was like, well, no, this is something that I wanted to do, and I didn't lose any teeth, so I was like, that's always a bonus.
Yeah.
So I made a hash of it and felt I'd come back, and I got pretty close to achieving my goal of having a fight before I turned 30. I was actually scheduled to have a fight pretty much would have been, from memory, around about April or May of that year. A long time ago now. But my opponent, unfortunately, suffered a bit of an injury on the day of the weigh-ins. So we had to put a kibosh on that one. And then I wasn't much longer afterwards that I got my first opportunity to step in there. And I guess that was probably a really, not a life-altering moment, but a real opportunity to sort of reflect. And being that, like I said, I'd had plenty of fights previously where I'd punched on with minders and done whatever. Or, sorry, I can't say that word.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
pissed people.
Yeah.
But I got an opportunity to get in there, and I remember vividly sort of remembering prior to stepping into my first fight that not that I was ever scared. Like I'd have nights sort of going, laying down, going to sleep, thinking, oh, what happens if I get knocked out in the first minute? You know what I mean? But it's like you need to trust yourself, what you've sort of done, and the training that you're putting in and the group that I'd surrounded myself with, they were confident in me, and I need to be confident in myself. But I'm sitting there before my first fight, and it probably got to about 15 minutes out. You don't know when you're going to get called, but I figured it was about 15 minutes out, and I've gone like, what am I doing? I don't know this guy. He's done nothing wrong to me. I've done nothing wrong to him.
You got philosophical about it.
Yeah, we were about like this is getting a bit silly. Like, no, I probably shouldn't do this. But then, I've said I will. All right, no worries. So my sort of inner ego come out and said, no, you're an idiot. Get in there, and did get in there. And I remember we started throwing punches as you do. So obviously we touch gloves, and then he's landed a couple. It was an Islander, Felipe Togo or Tago or something like that. I think off the top of my head. But he landed a couple of big heavy shots, and I've gone, if I could get punched in the head like this, I'm probably going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
But no, we had a bit of a good dance, and we got through it, and I was lucky enough to choke him out in the second round. It was a good opportunity to get. Well, for my mind, it was a good opportunity to get in there, and then I'm not unashamed to say this. I got out of the cage and walked back to the room, and obviously had all this high celebration, and it's great. This is fantastic. And then I bawled like a baby. Right? It was such a big emotional dump. And I wasn't sad and I wasn't happy. I was just, what's going on? So it was just a really sort of liberating experience, and just to sort of understand and have a bit of a philosophical look at it, I guess, as you pointed out. And then it wasn't until after the fight that I really sort of got a bit of a better understanding that even though we're fighting, I now more look at it like we're competing, and with this competition, it's a gift. So what I'm giving that other person is an opportunity to test themselves, and what they're giving me is an opportunity to test myself.
Yeah.
And I find that really that's why that's why I competed, or why I'd still like to compete in the future, is because it is a very special thing to me to be able to go, well, hey, look, you know what, you look at the camaraderie that we have generally after a fight and even before a fight. Like I've never fought anyone I don't like. I have a relationship with most people that I fought with outside of after the fight as well, whether it's just a quick catch up and a beer or a bit of a you have your hug and you thank each other, etc. But like that's what's important to me is that these people, I've had 8 professional fights, and I've got 8 people who I have, regardless of whether win, loss, draw, or however the fight's played out. Like I have a connection with these people. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that they gave me an opportunity to test myself, and I would hope to think that they're appreciative of the fact that they gave me this opportunity to test myself as well.
And how long after that first fight did it take you to come around that realisation that this isn't a fight, this is a competition, and to come about that perspective? Was it after that emotional dump and
it was
in
probably,
the weeks thereafter?
Well, like I said, he landed a couple of good shots, and it probably was when I was sitting on the couch at home. Your face is all swelled up. I was in a bit of world of pain, going like, man, why would I do this? Like, but then on the other hand, I'm like, and that's probably where it come about. Like, is that understanding and realization a few weeks, like a couple of days later, where it was like, okay, this is why, and that's why I feel very comfortable. a weird thing to say, but I enjoy fighting. Like, and I don't enjoy going down the street and punching on with people. That's not, to me, that's not something that you should enjoy. But I enjoy that competition and that opportunity to like I said, test myself. Like I find it's really rewarding. I can't recommend enough. I can't say enough to enough people that everyone should get to a combat gym, and not just to punch on with people, but obviously I think it puts a lot of things in perspective. If you get into a competition or a fight or however you want to frame it up with someone, all right, are your problems that big outside? Like getting punched in the face doesn't hurt. Like when you get punched in the face, it doesn't hurt.
You were mentioning that last week.
Yeah.
Like
surprisingly not that painful.
When you get cut, like it doesn't hurt. You know what hurts is a couple of days later, you're sitting there and your face is all bruised up, and you've actually got that moment to reflect and look at it. And when in the moment, that's probably the best way to frame it. In the moment, it doesn't hurt. Okay, and that's how a lot of people live, like in the moment. Do you know what I mean? It's when they have that time to reflect later on. So to me, everyone needs to have a fight, because in the moment, it's that might seem like it's the biggest problem, but it doesn't hurt. And then when later on down the track, you've got that opportunity to reflect upon it, and you go, oh, probably shouldn't have done that, or probably should have done this. And every fight, or for me, I run back in my head and go, that's probably where I fucked up, or that's that's probably where I won, and so yeah. Sorry to digress. But,
Not at all. So you were saying that those thoughts that run through your head when you do lose, and does it take a while to shake that? And how do you address that so that you're better prepared for next time? Or how do you quieten those voices as you're leading up to the next fight? Or do you just let them go and use that as some kind of motivation?
Really hard to describe how like I was on a 5 fight skid, so like I'd lost 5 fights in a row before I won my last one.
Yeah.
Right. So and to get up and sort of go, look, mate, I want to do it again, and I look back at all my fights and I go, all right, that's where I lost this one. That's where I lost this one. That one went to the judges, so I wasn't too happy with that. I lost this one here, or I've done that there. You know what I mean? But I never really lost faith in myself, and one of my favourite sayings is, like, I felt like every fight I've been in, I've deserved to win, right? And just like everything in life, just because you deserve something, or just because you feel like you deserve something, doesn't mean that you will get it.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, it's a good objective lesson to anyone out there. You know what I mean? Like, I can train as hard as I want to train. I can get up and go for a 4 a.m. run. I can be in the gym for 10 hours a day, right? And I can do everything that I can possibly do to make sure that I deserve to win, right? But my opponent, he might be going 11 hours. He might be getting up at 4. He might be getting up at 3:59 to go for his run. Like, he might just be doing that little bit extra, and he might deserve to win a little bit more than me.
Yeah.
All right. Fighting to me, is not like kicking the footy, like playing basketball, tennis, maybe tennis. But like it's an individual sport, and there's no win. There's definitely a winner, and there's definitely a loser.
Yeah.
All right. And there's no in betweens. There's no like, all right, you both put a good effort in. Yeah, occasionally it does happen, but like majority, fans sitting at home, people in a fight, generally you'll always know up here. You can't lie to yourself, so you'll actually know. So, but I never lost that belief. I'm not going to say I've considered myself to be one of the best fighters in Australia. That sounds like I've got a big head, but I always knew that if I did the work, that I'm a puncher's chance. I'm always I work hard. And it just means that occasionally someone's going to punch me harder. But it never disheartened me. I always felt that, I'm always going to have a crack, and I always probably will have a crack.
Yeah. So what was it that led you to write that list before you were 30?
I got divorced.
Okay.
So I've got 5 kids, and I met met a lady who I didn't know very well, and we had children pretty early on in our relationship.
Yeah.
And I did at the time I thought I did the right thing, and I married her. It wasn't the right thing to do, like on a personal level, and obviously hindsight's always a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But we had 3 kids together, and then I had a bit of a look at myself in the mirror one day, and probably wasn't a very nice person to be around. I was working a lot, trying to support my family, and I was getting a bit frustrated with things that were happening at home, and I not that I didn't coin this term. A friend of mine who's helping me go through this at this point in time, or help me not make the decision, but provided me some insight, was like, you got to ask yourself, what do you want for your kids?
Mm.
Do you think your kids want happy dad or angry dad?
Mhm.
Right? And if your kids want happy dad, well, then you need to make yourself become happy, right?
Yeah.
Or you're going to stay in this sort of rut, and that's what I did. Like I looked at and I made a bit of a tough decision.
That's a huge decision,
and wasn't a decision taken lightly, that's for sure. And then I made the decision that I was going to leave.
Yeah.
And then with that,
and start fighting.
yeah, pretty much. Now I'm happy. I'm in my happy place. But no, like I said, I made that list, and there was 30 things on it, and I think most of them done. But yeah.
And what were your friends and family around you saying to you as you're 30 years old now, stepping into this sport where at the age of 30, well, we had Jordan Biggie Stevens sitting where you're sitting, and he's 31 and now retired in a strength sport, and you're 30 at that stage, just entering at a time when a lot of guys are retiring. What were they saying to you?
I had a really good supportive group of friends. They were all, okay, cool, no worries. Funnily enough, most of them are bouncers. So
Go for it, keep fighting.
No worries, that's fine. My family, very, very supportive as well, and my partner as well. My fiance, well, she's now my fiance, but my partner at the time as well, after I split up, was very, very supportive of it as well. She's like, look, you want to do this? Like she still supports me to this day with it. So she recognises that it's something that's important to me. But yeah, I never really had any naysayers. They've come along a little bit lately, like you're getting a bit old. Things aren't that easy, and it's good to have those type of people around as well, like to keep you grounded and have a bit of an understanding. But at that point in time in my life, everyone was very supportive of it. They knew I wanted to. I've played pretty much every not every sport known to man, but I've been involved in most sports throughout my life, and it felt like it was a good opportunity.
Yeah. So now you're 38 years old, and you're getting some of those sage words of advice that maybe 38 is getting towards the end of your career. How are you feeling physically, and how are you feeling those voices emanating now as you are getting to the autumn of your years and in the octagon, in the cage?
Certainly, I'm at a stage where I need to start to realise what's important, I guess. Physically, every athlete carries a lot of injuries. So I need surgery on both my knees. I've popped my hips. I've ruptured my Achilles twice. I've popped my shoulders out. I've broken my hands. I've never had a broken nose.
You've just put me off MMA in a few sentences.
But
it's only been 8 years.
but in all honesty, all right, I got hurt more playing footy than I have had fighting. So the worst injury I've had fighting.
Where were you playing footy? Parents don't take your children.
in the northern suburbs. Which But So fighting isn't as dangerous as people think it is, but to sort of to look at my injuries itself, like I've ruptured my Achilles playing footy, I've done my knees playing footy, done my shoulders playing footy, broken my hands playing footy.
I'm not entering the football field again.
But fighting is the worst thing I've had happen there is just a couple of cuts, so bad as that sounds, and a couple of broken thumbs, but it's all good.
It's okay.
That's when you're hitting something too hard.
Yeah, that's right. You might be winning if you're breaking stuff. So
that's it.
So you were mentioning before you were coming off a 5-fight losing streak as you're entering into the next one. So, you were saying that you still had a tremendous faith in yourself at that stage. Like you'd felt that maybe if you were giving your best and on the right day, you could still take on anybody. Where do you think that sense of faith comes from in yourself?
Just a massive ego.
Yeah. At least you're honest about it.
No, like I said off the top, I've surrounded myself with good people and a good knowledge base. Like for this in particular fight, like I dropped from heavyweight to light heavyweight. And before I'd sort of made that decision, I'd had a look at a couple of things, and it was, like I said, I'm very lucky to be surrounded and blessed by people who have my best interest at heart. So first person who I sort of got in contact with was Chris Jarvis, Mr. Australia, or former Mr. Australia, and he sort of provided me with a nutrition plan to say, listen, if you want to get from A to B, you need to sort of follow this.
And what were you standing around at the time?
So at Christmas time.
Christmas time.
Even before Christmas. Even before Christmas, I was 115 kilos.
Right.
Close probably to 117, actually. And then when I got approached for this opportunity, I was probably at about 110. And I sort of said to the promoter, yeah, cool, knows I can make 93. Well, I tried to get the first fight, I tried to get at 96.5. I was like, 96 of you, all right. And then he was like, no, it needs to be at 93, and then you get a kilo weight allowance. But I was like, all right, cool, 93 it is. So, got set in a pretty good on a path with diet. Being, again, got, a lot of kids, and obviously work a full-time job, which is demanding as well. Finished studying, got a family, got to look after that as well. When I agreed to this fight, I was primarily training, the wee hours of the night. So I'd come home, put the kids to bed, time with the missus, and then pack me bags at about 10:30, 11 o'clock and go to the gym by myself.
Wow.
So get into the gym and either do bag work or just work on getting fit again, and started to slowly see the weight come down. There's a bit of a period in the middle where the weight stopped coming off, and it was like, what's going on? Like I need to be here and I'm well off here. But no, just trusted the process and surrounded myself with good people. Craig was instrumental, provided me with sort of a good solid game plan. And then obviously, just had like a lot of help from the boys at the gym who are out there to, who want the best for me as well.
And do you like training?
Yeah. Very, very cliche. Like if I don't get to go to the gym, like I get me angry pants.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Like I'd struggle with it. Like and just any physical exertion. Like I feel like I need. Like I work a pretty mundane office job, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, which is not something that I'm used to. Like I worked for a long time just in the night and had the day to myself, so I could always go to the gym. But particularly now, I feel like I need that opportunity to go to the gym and release a little bit. I guess is probably the best terminology for it. So
it's therapy for you.
Yeah.
Yep. As I imagine it would be for a lot of fighters as well. So I've got queued up your last fight. So just some final thoughts before we start playing some of that for you and get your thoughts as we're going through.
What, on the fight?
Yeah, just in terms of the build up and your expectations. Obviously, you're going from heavyweight to a light heavyweight, and so all of those challenges are going on in the background, which aren't such a big problem when you're a heavyweight. You don't have to worry so much about the weight, so that's just another factor. So what was the motivating factor in dropping a division?
I guess I'd probably fought all the best guys in Australia at heavyweight. And then as another sort of personal goal, I sort of looked at myself and said, well, I've never gone through the full fight journey. Like I've never had to lose weight. I've always sort of been north of 100, and our ceiling's 120. So I never had to cut weight, never had to drop anything. I've just always kind of, what do I weigh on the day? That's fine. Turn up and we fight. So I wanted to kind of experience that full journey. So that was the main motivating factor to get to light heavyweight. And then surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, once I got there, I was like, man, I feel a lot healthier. Like my knees aren't so sore. Like, this is actually pretty good. I
look good with my shirt off.
Wasn't necessarily looking the best with my shirt off. For sure, but,
So weighed in at 93 on the day. What were you on fight night?
Fight night, I probably ballooned back up to like 97, 98.
Yeah. So, nice. So how much did you cut sort of in the last couple of days leading up to the fight?
Well, I stopped eating. So fight was on Friday, and so weigh-ins were on Friday. So I stopped eating. My last meal was like Thursday lunchtime.
Right.
So it wasn't too bad. So I probably flew in like on the plane, landed at about 96-ish.
Okay, so
between
you're
95
really
96. Yeah, it's like very, very close. Like
nice.
Had a great sort of cut like weight wise, etc. And then like obviously just 20 minutes in the sauna.
Nice.
I think it's 20 minutes in the sauna, 20 minutes under the towel. So under the towel, so looking like a bit of an Eskimo. Sweating out, and then about another 15 minutes in, and probably about another 20 minutes under the towel, and then it was done. Like awesome. Even Craig was a bit surprised how much I sweated out. I was like, I see you later. I'm prolific sweater. It's like my body's like, no, you don't need that anymore. You're hot. You're cool. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, one of the things I was watching some of Greg's fight this week because I knew he was going to be a guest on one of the things that really stood out was the tenacity and the sort of heart that you show in your fights. That a lot of the ones where you did actually, get a loss, it wasn't that it was like a straight knockout and you were knocked out. It was, the other person had a dominating position. You were still in the fight. You could see you were still trying. You were still pushing back at every opportunity that you had, especially the one you had, the title fight against Sam. He had the side control position. I saw you really pushing hard, trying to flip off the cage. You were really in the fight the whole time, even though he sort of landed a lot of punches and some elbows, and you got a cut on the back of your head. I think you got a cut on your eye. When the doctor was checking you out, you still wanted to keep fighting. I mean, you were there. You still had that, as you said, puncher's chance. You're still in that fight. It was not in any of your career that I've seen where someone's just come out and just absolutely destroyed you. It's like you are still in that. And I think that's one of those things that really shows a testament to character, where you can say, look, I'm getting all this adversity and somebody is on top of me, punching me, but I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. I'm still there and I still can have a chance. Let's go for the next round, and we start on the feet. Maybe I'll get the knockout. You could see that one of your big skills seems to be, the jab of the right strike, and very strong in the clinch from what I could tell. So you've always got that when you start the round, you're starting on that feet, and it's like, well, let's go. Even though that person might get that takedown, they might control me for 5 minutes, but next round, I've still got that shot. Here we go again. You can punch me 100 times. I'm still going to try and knock you out. So I noticed that. I thought it was fantastic. And I think that's what we're about to see in this fight that Dave's about to play here. A bit of a comeback.
Yeah, so obviously
Whoa, what is going on? That's
So
brutal.
I'm just going to pause there. Go for it, Greg.
so Wade,
we're 3 seconds in. What are you thinking?
At this point in time, I'm like, oh, hey, Wade, how are you? So obviously, the gentleman I'm fighting, Wade Scatler, obviously kind of knew that he was going to come out pretty heavy-handed. Hadn't seen any recent tape of him fighting or anything like that. He obviously took a bit of some time off, but yeah, certainly we kind of knew that he was going to come out like at a bit of a bull at a gate. So just needed to make sure that it was protected, covering up and keeping the ability to make sure that I'm still there for when I kind of knew he might potentially either punch himself out or get to a point where I can sort of start to impose my will. Like I come from a pretty heavy cross country running background when I was a kid.
Right.
So like I've got like a massive like cardio.
Yeah.
Like I've got a gas tank that can generally go for days. Like some of the lads at the gym call me like Velasquez, like they're like you're Greg Velasquez, because it's just like I just don't get tired. Yeah. And then like I honestly feel that I don't like I might get tired, but I'm not tired. Like it's like so that's what I was probably thinking at this point in time. It's just all right, like hands up, just make sure that I don't land any big shots. Like we're still in that sort of 100 kilo range where anyone can knock anyone out. So we want to be well protected.
Yeah. So at this stage, you're weathering the storm and feeling if you can get past this, there's. So.
This is what one of the things I really noticed is you seem to really shine when it's back and forth, kind of a brawl moments.
I think he gave me a bit of a wobble there.
Yeah. So at that point.
At that point, it's just still okay, cool. No, it's like I like getting hit. Like it kind of makes you go like, yeah, we're here. Great. No, it's like this and you have that realization. This is what I'm here for. Like probably in some of my fights, like it's a bit hard to get to like sort of an even sort of kill, like because like I have a genuine like and love for these other guys. Yeah. So sometimes I've been very, very not close to them, but joking around a little bit too much. Where it's like actually, come on, like we're going to be able to, we're going to be punching soon enough. Like let's not be cool, but like let's be fine. But,
doesn't feel like you're friends too much at this stage, huh?
There's more. I'll touch on the friendship element there, but no, I actually feel like we're close friends at this point in time.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Wait, guys, I don't have my glasses on, Greg. Which one are you, with the tats or with the no tats?
No, I'm the half tats.
The bareback.
The one on the ground
I'm the one on the ground.
On the back.
Yeah.
okay.
So you're on your
Brutal.
back.
What's that? Oh, nice.
So one of the big things that were leading up into the fight, and I'm like a turtle when I hit the deck. I kind of struggle a little bit sometimes. But like I was thinking, oh man, like I didn't want to get taken down, and here I'm on the floor again. You know, and like my last fight, as Matt mentioned, Sam landed a couple of nice elbows and tried to turn me into a less prettier version of myself, but it didn't really come through as well. But I was just a little bit worried that I was going to get I guess finished on the ground again. I was like, man, I've been here before, but you know what, I'm gonna keep going. Like it's it doesn't matter. Like it's at the end of the day, it's a fight. I'm here, and this is what I've agreed to. So whether I get cut here or not, it's not going to be a problem. But then Wade just kind of stood up and I was like, okay, cool, this is fine. He obviously wanted to try to just ground and pound me out, and I was like, all right, that's good. I'm okay with this. He wasn't able to get to like a dominant position. He was in my guard, and then for some way we've just. I think maybe he thought I was going for a heel hook, and I have no leg lock at all. There's a leg there I'm going to grab onto it. It gives me something to sort of pivot off and be able to strike back. But then he must have got a little bit, not worried, I'm going to say, but I was like, okay, well, this is a good spot for me to be in. So he's kind of backed off, and then I kicked off and was able to quickly stand up. And then it was probably a real turning point for me in the fight in the sense of, well, we're back on our feet. It's very hard to describe to people, like when you can actually physically see when someone else's eyes sort of turn. And my very first fight, that happened as well. Like me and Felipe had a couple of big exchanges, and then I remember just getting a nice front kick up on him that went straight up his guard, straight out in his hand, landed him square in the face, right? And as my foot's come back down, I could just see his look in his eyes, which was like, fuck. Like, and that's kind of what this moment here with Wade was as well. Is like, I've jumped back up to my feet, thrown a pretty heavy right hand. I don't think I landed it, but like just looking at him, and he was just like, oh, fuck. Like, like he'd gotten to the point where he was tired, and it looked like I was still fresh. So
okay, so he's thrown everything out this first minute and a half, and now you're back on your feet, even kill, and the fight starts.
Which you said you knew was going to happen too. Yeah. You said you and your coach had said, Craig had said that he's going to come out flying like a bull.
Yeah.
So, and this is where you start to feel the momentum start to shift.
Yeah. I think accidentally kicked him in the cup. Maybe did a cup check on him there, and then But then obviously now we just got into a bit of another heavy exchange and landed a pretty big left body kick on him, and then got him to turn and just get him pushed up against the cage. And then here I've just managed to handcuff his hand, which is something that I pretty much work on, like as a bit of a favoured position for me. It's very easy to control someone. You're looking for your 4 points of contact or your 5 points of contact here. So hips, pressure, shoulder, and then just the head as the last one. And I'm gripping his hand pretty hard there. And it's like, okay, well, let's just start working him. And then, again, to his credit, tough guy. Like we're working, and he's trying to work his way out of there the whole time. But I just managed to maintain that handcuff until we've skidded around the cage a little bit. And I was like, I'm not going to let go. That's it. We're hanging on for here now.
Nice.
Like my original nickname was the Grinder until they released the app. Because that's
you could have been sponsored by them. Man. Sorry, go on.
Now it's OnlyFans.
Because I had a habit of grinding people out, or at least at the gym, just making sure that my cardio would come over the top, and this is what I was just mainly trying to do here. And then landed some. Just some pretty heavy knees. Nothing innocuous, but just trying to stay busy. Like obviously, I'd worked hard to get a position like this, and you don't necessarily want to give it up. So let's just keep working, and then.
And are you feeling like in terms of points now, you're playing catch up still, or you?
I've never really considered points.
Right.
Like, I've only ever gone the full distance in one fight before.
Right.
And which was I got a loss on it. And I've always kind of felt, well, you know what, like that loss, I earned that loss because maybe I had a little bit left in the gas tank to go, or maybe I didn't work as hard enough And you know that my opponent Ricky was a great opponent as well, and obviously it was a great fight.
That was a great fight. When you guys were going back and forth like the whole way through, there was no loser in that fight. That's for sure.
So you know, like definitely don't want to take any like discredit away from Ricky, but I was like, well, you know what, like I lost that fight because I left it in the hands of the judges, and I definitely, you know, like coming back to deserving to win, like I probably should deserve to win more by trying to knock him out or submitting him, just like he, you know, probably feels the same. Like he got the win, so like it's great he was able to get that, but maybe he wanted to knock me out, maybe he wanted to submit me. So
yeah.
So what are you thinking? Like, can you remember exactly what's going on in your head at this point in time? Like, are you just thinking, smash him? What are you thinking?
No, just trying to maintain that pressure and just maintain that positioning. Like, obviously, you know, you want to be smart but not reckless, but you want to be dangerous but not, you know, soft. Like you want to make sure that you're putting all this together, and obviously, you know, just keeping that uncomfortable level for him, like driving my head up into the bottom of his chin, keeping his head up, you know, and then just staying busy, like punch here, punch there, like what's my opportunity, like what I want to do, you know what I mean? Kind of you zone everything else out, maybe listening for the ref, like Craig's got a great, nice, deep voice, and you know, he's quite informative of what he'd like me to do and that as well, and so yeah, certainly well aware of, you know, sort of like the important voices, I guess. I don't really hear the crowd. They're not like something that I really pay attention to. Just because I fight mainly in the state, I'll get booed a lot. So
yeah.
But yeah.
You can see with what Greg's doing there, with having that pressure up against the cage and making the other guy work, it's exhausting when you're defending and somebody's leaning their body weight on you and you've got your hands trapped and he's landing all these little shots.
Next video.
Even though there might not be incredibly damaging punches that he's landing, the defense that you're trying to mount and his pressure that's just overwhelming
That
you.
one?
Yeah.
So you could see that, you know, there was obviously that skill that you had there where you were like, I felt like he might have been gassing a bit and I'm going to make him work for the next 3 minutes. And even though it's like, okay, these aren't positions where I might get a huge knockout, he's working hard because I'm leaning on him, I'm pushing my head into him. I'm landing little shots to the stomach, you know, and he's trying to escape. You can see him trying to get away. You're like, no, you're staying here. I'm keeping you in this spot, knees to the legs. You know, it's just constant pressure.
Yeah. People would normally surprised at how like exhausting it is, like just trying to wrestle someone.
That's ridiculous.
Yep. I learned that at Apex myself in the state wrestling competition. But what you said there, which is quite interesting, which Matt just touched on, is like in your mind was, I'm going to keep this guy uncomfortable. Like you're talking about how you were keeping the pressure on him, and you said, like, you know, with your head and his head, making sure he was uncomfortable and then having to fight that, which is quite interesting. Because I guess it's not so much about, you know, getting the blows all the time. It can also be about just making them feel so uncomfortable. Very interesting.
It's with grappling, it's a nasty thing. It's somebody just on top of you, and they might not be doing anything, but you can't breathe, you can't get away. It saps all your energy unless you can learn how to relax in certain positions. It's just you burn yourself out in 30 seconds, and your arms are, you know, spaghetti arms after that.
Spaghetti arms. So we're just about to launch into round 2 here. So what was the talk in the corner?
You're top bloke, Greg.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So good looking. Yeah.
Just
look at your abs now. You've lost all that weight.
My elusive abs. Yeah, never seen them. But just reiterating the message before the fight. Like you said, I mean, look at him. He's tired. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we knew this was going to happen. Like, you're in a great spot. Like, you know, just go out there, play the game plan now. Like, you know, and like I said, like I'd already kind of realised that I'd probably not sapped his will. That sounds a bit negative, but I realised that, you know, he was hurting and he was tired, and I you know, trusted myself. I knew that I'd put the hard yards in. I was, you know, fit. I was ready to keep going, and like, you know, okay, now it's time to keep working. Let's keep putting that pressure on.
So you're almost happy to get round 1 out of the way? Yeah. Here we go. Round 2.
Make sure I was covering up to start off with. You know, want to ensure that, like, if he did get his second wind, it's going to be fine.
Good use of your legs.
Yeah, I don't mind the old kicks.
Have you done much kickboxing, or what's your actual specific training kind of? Because MMA is interesting. You've got that. Obviously, you can do. I come from boxing, but you've got all those options. Oh, excellent.
So my traditional background, I'd say, is I'm a freestyle fighter. Like I've never had, like, cardio flex when I first started training, there was probably a little bit more of a Thai gym, but never had any Thai fights, never done any real kickboxing, just just everything. Like I've only ever sort of been in that sphere. So yeah, I don't really know what like how I would say, like, but I know what I like. I like kicking. I like punching. I kind of like all of it. So just there's no real specific skill set where I can say, hey, I did Taekwondo from the age of 6 and I was a state champion or this. Like it's just I just like to fight.
Really freestyle. Okay, so and you don't focus on anything in particular. It sounds like you just do everything. That's really interesting. Yeah.
Like don't really like have a desired skill set or like a something which is that's what I'm good at. Like I'd like to think, well, I'm a journeyman. Good at enough. Not good enough to be a master. So
cool.
What's interesting with the evolution of the sport of MMA, at the start you had people that were specialised in certain disciplines, and it was wrestling or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing, or they had these backgrounds leading in. But now it's people are starting at the MMA point. They're like, okay, well, rather than just specialising in Taekwondo or like, this is MMA.
Yeah.
Welcome. You're going to learn everything because you need to know absolutely everything: wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, positioning, cardio. It's insane that people that don't really sort of understand all the little nuances, and if the combination of sports that it's putting together, if you're lacking in one area, like say you have terrible wrestling, it's like you're going to get beaten by wrestling. If you have bad jiu-jitsu, you're going to get submitted. If you had terrible striking, like you could be phenomenal in one of those areas. If you're not able to implement that skill, you'll get beaten by the other skills. So you've got to have everything, which is just, insane. It's sort of starting at a point. It's like, I need to know everything, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing. Like it's just, it's such an amazing sport. And you can see people that have come from a specialized discipline, they still have their game plan based around that, especially at the top level, the fighters in UFC, like George St. Pierre, came from a karate background. So he's sort of got that in and out sort of point style. But then he was able to base that around, bringing up his wrestling, bringing up his jiu-jitsu around it. So, to start with no background in specific martial arts training and say, okay, I'm going to walk into the gym and what do we do? Well, here's how you throw a punch. Here's how you defend a takedown. Here's jiu-jitsu. Here's everything. And then stepping in the cage. How long was it after you first went into the gym that you first got into a fight?
It was just a touch over 12 months. So.
What an apprenticeship.
And got a submission win on the first.
To be fair, I think I knocked him out and then he fell into my guillotine.
Okay. He fell into my arms.
It's a pretty common theme. People don't want me to get taken down for some reason. And I've realised it's because I'm terrible on the ground. But, So, I think he woke up when he was in my guillotine, was tapped because it's probably the sloppiest guillotine you've ever seen. But it's an interesting point though that a lot of young kids coming into the sport now. Like you're actually starting to see some of those guys who reach that UFC level. Like we've got a good crop of young guys at the gym who all they've ever really done is MMA. So they wanted in the gym when they were 13, 14, and they've had 3 or 4 years now where they've just picked themselves up, and we're starting to see a couple of them. Compete. You've got young Jed, you've got Carlos. These guys coming through who are just that's all they've known. That's all they've done. And they're very well skilled, well rounded athletes. Like you can't kind of pick them and go, if it goes to the ground, not me. You're in a bit of trouble. Like it goes to the ground with them, and then you're like, they're going to get up. They've got that skill. They can strike. They've got that skill. Like
Absolutely.
It's very very rewarding and refreshing to see.
It's one of those things with heavyweights as well. The ground game seems to be a real tricky thing, especially to learn if you haven't come from that background of a jiu-jitsu background or something. Because you've got so much weight and so much larger, even training with someone who might be smaller, but they can just flip around you and trying to move your arm is, you feel so heavy. So
it's definitely a sticking point. Like when the heavier you are, you want to end up on top. If you end up on top, life is good. life is so good.
All right, which I think might be about to happen here. So
Heavy ground and pound, very heavy. Some big shots being landed. Oh, great transition, just keeping that pressure.
And that's enough.
And that will do it.
That was an explosive second round.
Yeah, a lot of punches there, very quick.
TKO victory.
Yeah.
And a complete turnaround.
Marv Hearne.
Yeah, so again, knew that I was going to probably be a lot fresher. Just lucky, I guess. Yeah, lucky with that inside leg chop that he'd obviously lost his footing and put him on his back, and then jumped on it as soon as already not armed with the knowledge that he was pretty tired. That's it. Like, it's going to be time to finish. Like, it's time to put the icing on the cake here. Worked pretty hard. So yeah, no, it was good.
Good on him. Good on Greg. He broke his loss streak. It was an exceptional fight. I mean, he came back from adversity in that first round.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, adversity.
There you go.
We'll just leave it to the commentators.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you feel, dropping that weight class, did you feel, I mean, obviously you smashed this, you don't feel like you lost any strength or power?
Nah, not at all. Like, as far as heavyweights went, I was a lazy heavyweight in the sense of, like, I probably could have always fought at light heavyweight. But I like my cakes.
Same.
I like my food.
Because I can drop like 2 categories myself. So I'm just wondering, just asking for a friend. Yeah, go on. Tell me more.
Yeah, so
you don't regret
you got really weak. And you were
it
was the worst
was it
decision
worth
ever.
for someone like me? It's my friend, not me. Yeah.
No, certainly, yeah. I'd probably, if I want to take another match, it would be a light heavyweight.
There you
that's
go.
For sure. I enjoyed losing the weight. Funny thing, like, I hated food while I was cutting, because it got to the point where, like, the way that my diet was set out, I was still eating pretty regularly. Like, I'd probably having 6 small meals a day, but I'd get to eat, right? And then those endorphins in my brain would start going off. Like, your serotonin starts to release. It's like, yes. You are. Thank you, Greg. You've been hungry all day. Like, you've been, and then, like, because the portions are a lot smaller, I'd stop, and then my brain would be like, "Fuck you."
Fuck you, Greg.
Like, what are you doing this to me? And then, so that I actually started to develop a relationship where I'd actually hate to start eating, because, like, you can kind of push all that to one side, and then you're like, well, I need to eat for nutrition. I need to eat to stay strong. Now, God damn it, I'm eating and my brain's like, I hate you. Now I'm going to get to that point again. So, yeah.
And what are you weighing now?
I haven't weighed myself recently, but I'm pretty confident to say I'd be in and around like 99 to 102, somewhere around there.
Okay, so you haven't like blown up or anything like that?
No. So still trying to eat like pretty relatively healthy, but that Reese's peanut butter ice cream, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous stuff. So.
Performance enhancer.
Yeah.
Asada.
And so what are the plans next? You're contemplating staying light heavyweight and looking for the next challenge.
Well, one thing I did say to Craig straight after that fight was, that's it, I'm done. I'd like to retire.
Oh, wow.
And then
kind of thought about it. And
had you discussed that with people in your life?
No, I kept that pretty close in my chest. So I've always had a dream of getting to 10 fights. Like, it's a bit of an old adage or a bit of a saying, like, you can't really call yourself a fighter unless you've had probably 10 fights. Unfortunately for me, I'm stuck at 8. Well, I'm at 8.
Yeah,
I won't say stuck. I'm at 8, and I've been fighting now for 8 years. So I've never had a really quick turnaround with fights. Like, being here in SA, one of the reasons why we started DFC is because the former promoter stopped putting shows on.
Yeah.
So that meant there was a gap in the marketplace, but it took us around about 2 to 3 years to refill that gap. Yeah. Being that we were based in SA as well, it wasn't really necessarily an attractive prospect for people to fly us interstate to compete. Yeah. So I was lucky enough with some of my first sponsors that shout out to the firm, Charlie and the boys down there. They initially were they were my first sponsor. Yeah. But they looked after me and they would help get me interstate and things like that to compete when obviously sometimes East Coast is if you look at the people that I fought, they're generally of an Islander background, the Pacific Islander background, and there's some big lads as well. And obviously there's a lot of them on the East Coast who are willing to fight, and so to get out there is a bit hard and tough at the start.
Is it financially challenging to just get yourself to the fights in the first place?
like I've always been paid to fight,
Right.
and I've always been supported for plane tickets and things like that, or accommodation, etc. For some shows are like, no, pay your own way over here, and
is that unusual for MMA?
Back then, not necessarily. Like it's changed a lot now. So for example, for DFC, we pay all of our professional athletes. We put them up in accommodation. We fly them over here. Some of them we also entitled. We pay them like meal allowances and things like that. Like living away from home. And that's generally the direction the sport's taking. It's heading in that little bit more of a professional sort of mannerism.
Yeah.
But when I started, an amateur fight was, you don't have an amateur fight. It's like, oh, we've got this fight for you, and that's the only option you had. You know what I mean? So, but we do pay. We fly in amateur athletes and that as well. They're just not paid. That's the main discerning difference between a pro and an amateur.
Yeah. You still look after them.
But we still look after them. We put them up in some good accommodation. We like the full fighter experience. You know what I mean? Like they're treated like a professional athlete or what they'd like to aspire to.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, it's not red panty night at the Hearne household whenever I get a fight. That's for sure. So it's you just obviously you do it for the love, not for the money. So,
yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about how DFC got started.
So after not the crash, but after MMA Down Under, so that the owner Greg Hearne, he took an international job, so wasn't living in SA as much anymore. He was the former promoter, very very devout when it comes to the UFC. He was instrumental in getting the UFC brought to Adelaide itself, getting the cage ban lifted, etc. So he was quite passionate about it, but his work drew him away outside of Adelaide, so he was no longer sort of in and around, and he made the announcement at the last MMA Down Under, and me and Craig at the point in time kind of just looked at each other and was like, hang on, I reckon this might be an opportunity here. And luckily, Greg Hearne had a bit of a relationship with both me and Craig, me from an athletic perspective and Craig from a coaching perspective, and was like, well, it must have liked the cut of our jib, and was like, you know what, like those two guys look like they're they know what they're going to be able to do, and they're going to look after like a sport that he was very passionate about and help continue to grow it here in SA.
Yeah.
So we purchased the whole kit and caboodle off him.
Yeah.
And then started looking at planning our own shows.
Yeah.
And how we were going to sort of present it and what we wanted to see from MMA.
So you guys then rebranded it to Diamondback?
Yeah. Well,
what was the motivation behind that?
Just obviously we wanted something different. We MMA Down Under we felt was a serviceable name, but we wanted to find something a little bit a bit more personable and something that we would be able to align ourselves with and have some affinity with. Bit of a process to get there. Surprisingly, a lot of all the good names were taken. But so luckily for us, the best name wasn't. So Diamondback was still available.
Yep.
We went through a bit of a arduous selection process to get there, but we actually come up with the name whilst we were away in Melbourne for a fight that I had with the wedding singer Cora Mayer. Beautiful voice. Heavy hands too. But yeah, we come up with the name together, driving around Melbourne looking for car parts of all things.
Oh,
so yeah. So Craig had just bought himself a bit of a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
So we were in Melbourne, we were over there. We killed two birds with one stone, and we were driving around looking for some parts for his Beamer, which he sold not long after.
And so you're just driving around, throwing around names and ideas, and then this one popped up, and you went, that sounds like something.
Diamondback. That's we've got a snake, we've got this, we've got the hardness of the diamond, and if you we look at like an athlete like a diamond, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm still an uncut gem, very unpolished. But some of the younger lads I was talking about before, they're coming through, and they're coming through, and they're getting the polish now. So obviously like Shane Mitchell, very close to signing with the UFC. Hopefully, we can get him up and about. But like guys like that, so we wanted to be able to provide that understanding that we're a diamond, so we get diamonds who come into us or people who come to our show, and we want to polish them up and we want to push them out to the big leagues and get them to showcase their wares across not only Australia but also the world.
I think the MMA community noticed a substantial step up in the professionalism when things moved to the Adelaide Oval as well. So what was the motivation to that? Was it to be more professional, or what? How to deal with that?
Certainly, and the Titanium Arena, where MMA Down Under will always hold a special place in my heart. All right, got a couple of wins out there, so that's always good. But we just looked at it and went, what do we want to create? We want to create a brand. We want people to want to have an ease of access. And one of the biggest problems with Titanium Arena is that it's out of the city, not close to accommodation. People who want to go to the show have to drive there. Which then limits their ability to have some adult beverages or be, they need to be responsible when they leave. So we go, what can we change about that? So we started specifically looking for venues in and around the Adelaide CBD. You know what I mean? Like we want to bring it, closer to where public transport in. We can make a bit of an event out of it, make it a bit of an opportunity for people to come together, enjoy themselves. You know what I mean? But still behave in a responsible manner and leave.
Yeah.
So I think we were exploring a couple of options in the Adelaide CBD, including like the entertainment centre, it's a park, so areas that are close to the CBD. And then I think Craig was catching a flight back from somewhere, and he just happened to open up one of those in-flight magazines, and there was something about event hire and the convention centre, and there was something about Adelaide. I was, so he managed to give them a call and organise a meeting, and then the rest is history. We went down there, and they were a bit and ahhing about putting on these thuggish MMA show.
And was that a genuine hesitation on their behalf of associating the Adelaide Oval brand with MMA?
Not necessarily if it was a concern, obviously, at the time. We're still there now, but we had, through security, I knew some of the people who'd worked there, so they had a couple of questions for us about that, that we were able to sort of allay their fears. Hey, this is what we're doing, this is the procedure we're putting in place. And certainly, we wanted to encourage people to come and see the show because, combat sports here in Adelaide and Australia for a while, they had a bit of a negative spin on some of the characters that it involved and some of the characters that would be invited along to it. So we definitely wanted to showcase, hey, this is not what we're about. Come to one of our shows and see. And our first show, it was lovely. We had kids running around. We had this. It's actually a really good family sort of affair. But there was a bit of trepidation when we first started from other facilities as well, like Etapaki were flat out no. Like they'd had a bad experience in the past with a show. Yeah. And they turned around and said, what are you even asking for? Wow. We will not even consider this. And we were like, oh, it's different. No, same but different. No. So we were very lucky that Adelaide Oval jumped on board with us pretty quickly. Especially after they'd seen the first show, they were like, oh, this is great. Yeah. We are quite happy to support this, and they've been one of our biggest supporters since.
Fantastic. And what are the plans ahead for yourself and DFC?
We obviously still want to continue to help support and grow MMA here in SA. Obviously, we're COVID's been a little bit of a messy, but we want to try to obviously still put on not only amateur shows but professional shows, and then Apex as well. We're working on a bit of a format to make sure that we're providing enough platforms and opportunities for all the young athletes, existing athletes to obviously put on and a place for them to showcase their wares. Yeah,
and for those people that aren't familiar with Apex, can you share the concept of the Apex event?
So same car trip that me and Craig come up with.
This was one hell of a car trip.
That's right. Yeah.
Leave us on the car.
The magic school bus that you were on.
Melbourne's a pretty big place, especially when there's two mumpties from Adelaide not knowing where they're going. So
there's plenty of time to talk.
It's actually going around in circles.
Well, navigation duties did get taken off me after a little while, so I can't follow a map that well. But we obviously Apex at that. Prior to Apex, we had always envisioned that we were going to do a big outdoor show, just an MMA show. And we were like, well, how can we, maybe get a few more people interested in this? And one of the things that we've always tried to do at Diamondback is have a bit of a, like an affinity or a throwback to our original, where the roots of our sports have grown, you know what I mean? So we've had some judo demonstrations, we've had wrestling matches, we've had, not WWE wrestling, we've had proper wrestling, like Greco-Roman wrestling and freestyle wrestling. We've had like judo matches and that as well, to sort of showcase all this information or where our sport has grown from.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we were thinking about that and what we wanted to do, we were actually going to put a big outdoor show on as well after we'd done one or two DFCs and see where the feet lie. But we had a lot of success with DFC, so we kind of just pushed that to the back. We had a specific venue in mind as well at the point in time. It's gone through a couple of redevelopments recently, so it's no longer outdoors; it's an indoor venue. But we were looking to put something on there, and then when life gave us lemons with COVID, we had to come up with a bit of a way to circumnavigate some of the issues which we had, which is we'd previously done shows at Adelaide Oval, and we'd also done a couple of shows. We'd done one show at the Bridgeway Tavern. We also did a couple of shows at Golden Grove Recreation Centre. And in the Golden Grove Recreation Centre, limited capacity because the capacity went from 1 by 1, so one person per 1 square metre, to one person every 4 square metres. Right now, we don't make a huge amount of money running the shows in the sense of like we've got a lot of overheads, and one of the biggest overheads being a venue hire. And if you reduce the capacity of a venue, we have to take that out. So we thought, well, how can we get around this internal problem of having, you can't have so many people per square metre, and it's slightly reduced now, and it's almost getting back to normal. But we went, okay, well, let's have a look at it, and how can we do this? And we revisited the outdoor show, right? And then we went, well, how can we get other people involved in the outdoor show? We don't just want to showcase MMA. We want to showcase obviously some of these other sports like boxing and kickboxing. And one of the specific rules in Adelaide for people to compete in a cage, which is a safety enclosure, for people to compete, only MMA can compete in a safety enclosure. You can't have any boxing or kickboxing fights.
Right.
So,
is there any reason that's given for that, or
just how they managed to get the legislation through? So, when they initially applied for it, I think it was early 2000 and 2010s, I think you'd call it, like was when they sort of managed to get that legislation changed. But yeah, so we found, well, how can we get other people involved? So we went, well, let's look at some traditional combat sports like kickboxing and boxing, and we set up a cage and we set up a ring, and obviously those who attended the Apex show sort of seen how well it worked. So it's an idea that we're going to continue to run with. And then we thought, well, what else could we bring into this? You know what I mean? So obviously, if anyone was there, we had the arm wrestling guys. They come down and they put a big show on. We had obviously the powerlifting guys, like Jordan was happy enough or gracious enough to come down and be our host for that. We had some hammer guys. We had medieval. We had wrestling. We had jiu-jitsu. It was a pretty big day.
It was a huge day.
It was a long day. But it was a great event. So we brought all these events together and obviously showcased them. And we had about 3,500 people come through the gate all day.
COVID restricted.
COVID restricted. Obviously, everyone checked in, which was great. And obviously, we had social distancing and made sure that all these little spanners were covered off. But it was.
And you feel if you didn't have the COVID restrictions, or there was a couple of things that probably limited attendance there. So there was the COVID restrictions, and if you just said, okay, if it was any other kind of normal year, what would have been your expectation to see through the gate?
To be honest, hey, we would have expected 3,000 people through the gate for our first one. Okay?
Right. So you were happy with the numbers, even? Right. Awesome.
So we were pleasantly surprised.
Excellent.
And we were obviously hoping that as we continue to grow and obviously people become more aware of it and
restrictions ease and
ease, then obviously the next one we have will be even bigger again, and that's traditionally what's happened with our DFC shows as well. Like our first show, we sold 1,000 tickets for, and we're like, that's where our max is going to be, and then we've continued to sell out every single time and found a little bit extra space to squeeze some more bums on seats. That's for sure.
Excellent. So DFC, you're going to continue with the Apex events. Is that something you'd like to take national one day?
Certainly, we have discussed whether you're potentially taking it to a national level. Obviously, there's some logistical problems involved with that, and then obviously we want to make sure
they're Craig's problems. So
but we would like to obviously we see it. We certainly feel that it's got some legs and it's got an ability to work on a national scale. Who doesn't like combat sports?
Who doesn't like combat sports?
Who does not like combat sports?
Indeed. So there's a lot of crossover appeal in an event like Apex, and I'm intrigued as to your thoughts on these crossover athletes now in combat sports and the rise of the influencer athlete over recent times. So we were mentioning before, you have made a conscious decision to not be on social media. You're enjoying the quiet life over there.
Things are good. Life is good. I've got my Facebook account and that's it.
That's it.
And I recently started a LinkedIn for business purposes.
That's when you know you're a grown up.
I'll endorse you for MMA skills.
It's got grappling 10.
Grappling.
So what are your thoughts on influencer athletes like the Paul brothers that we're starting to see emerge and become?
Did you have to bring this up?
It's Izzy's favourite topic of conversation. She right up there with Muhammad Ali.
That's right.
Is how Izzy kind of.
Swear to God, Dave, you're pushing the line today.
Does it intrigue you? Like, was that a fight? Did you watch the fights?
I try not to watch the influencer fights. Yeah, it happened while I was at work. Otherwise, I would have. No. No. It's an interesting concept, and I guess the best way to look at it is that, right, if I told you could go make $20 million getting punched in the head by, not arguably, but one of the potential best boxers in the world, would you do it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So I can't find fault with these influencer athletes where people are throwing money at them to go get into a fight, right? And the upside to the Paul brothers is that if they lose, they're still getting paid, right?
Yeah.
And people are going to be, well, you lost to a great
greatest
athlete.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
There's no shame in that.
Or you've lost a professional combat athlete, you know what I mean? Like with Ben Askren as well, right? You know, and on the reverse side, you've got Floyd Mayweather, you know, 40 years plus. His best is behind him. He knows he can't compete with, you know, if he was here now, he'd probably whoop me. Right? Yeah. But he knows he can't compete.
I'm sure
with
he's not listening, so
yeah,
he'll be fine.
Sure about that, right? I don't know. He did hear I was coming. So, so he obviously, you know, he's in the, you know, he's in his dotage, I guess, as a boxer, right? But he's still getting paid $100 million, to go and compete against these guys who, realistically, he knows has no real chance to beat him, right? If he sticks to his game plan, and on the reverse side, these guys are like, well, yeah, I'll get paid $20 million to fight him. Like you look at the Conor, you know, $100 million just to fight, you know, I mean, for his first professional boxing fight, you know? Whereas these other YouTube and influencer stars that are making their way through the ranks at the moment. Well, I can't find fault for anyone for trying to better their life or better their position by getting paid a lot of money to do something that I love. Like shit, like I've always said I'd fight anybody, like anywhere if they're.
Yeah.
There we go. Ding ding.
Sorry, go.
I'm not throwing down with you, am I?
Let's roll. Diamondback Fight Night.
Yeah, we'll keep
December
to the cage.
2021. All right, you know, do go on.
Like I think it'd be great. Like it's I've always said that. Yeah, literally, I will fight anyone. Like if anyone come knocking and said, hey, I've got this opportunity for you, and the money was good, I'd be like, yeah, damn, for sure.
That's what you're in it for. And so, of any of these kind of prize fighters like Paul Gallen coming up, is that a fight you'll be intrigued to watch?
Paul Gallen's fight and Jason Honey.
Yes.
Certainly. Again, I have some views about boxing outside of the money. Like I don't necessarily think that all boxing fights are necessarily fair. All you've got to look at is the Barry Hall and Paul Gallen fight to start off with. You know, so Paul Gallen's now gone out and he's beaten a couple of other people, but you know, that was a pretty fair and even fight. Which, when you look at in the sporting landscape for Australia, right, AFL football pretty popular, NRL pretty popular. Did they really want a winner? Did they really need someone to be declared as you know? This is the best manly sport there is. No, they weren't. So, boxing athletes have bouts, right, or matches, whereas in my opinion, MMA fighters have fights. You know, so and that's not to take anything away from any boxers. Like most boxers, if we had a boxing fight, would school me. Yeah, you know, like it's a beautiful science. It's a beautiful sport. It's a beautiful, you know, fluidity of motion. You know, the way that they can interact and have control over their bodies, right? But it's not a fight. And if I harken back to when I was a bouncer, right? Like bouncers fight, like that's what you have on the street. Like an MMA fight is as close as you can get to a fight that you have on the street. They normally last a lot longer than the fights that happen on the street. but overall, yeah.
So what's on the horizon for you now?
Well, I did get an interesting offer this week.
Is this an exclusive?
To fight me.
That's right.
You weren't meant to talk about that yet.
that I'm mulling over at the moment. I haven't. Yeah, it is kind of. I haven't even told my missus yet. So I might have 2 fights lined up. One probably when I get home tonight. But yeah, no, just probably gonna, potentially, like I said, I'd told Craig after my last fight that I was pretty close to, or I wanted to retire, and I've had a bit of a think about it since then, and I'm still pretty hungry, and I would be lying to say that when I got this offer, I was okay, nice. But then I need to really weigh up what's going on in my life as well. So certainly, if an interesting opportunity presents itself, then I'd still certainly be keen.
So when an opportunity does come up, who's your brains trust? Who do you talk to about it first? And then, what is there a process that goes in your mind? Like, obviously, you're going through it a little bit at the moment. So, how does that process work for you?
There is a process. Obviously, I speak to obviously Craig, and, we try to work out a game plan. Craig is very, very supportive of whatever I sort of choose to do. He's only ever told me not to fight one person, and you guys might know of him. His name's Tai Tuivasa. He made it to the UFC.
Yeah.
And I was like,
bam.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. We got offered that, and Craig asked me if I'd be interested. I said, yeah, certainly I would. And then he went home that night. He rang me the next day. He said, no, we're going to turn it down. And I was like, oh. Okay.
Really?
And
heavy hands.
I didn't really know much about Bam Bam. I watched the video of it after we got told about that then, and then I rang him up, and I actually rang Craig the day afterwards, and I said, mate, don't you think I could beat him? And it's the first time he was like, we need to work on a lot, Craig. And I was like, okay, and we've saying that's what a coach is supposed to be there for, like, and it really resonates with me that obviously Craig cares enough about me to actually want my best interest. I know that there are some coaches out there who just we'll take any fight anywhere, anytime, doesn't matter. And maybe their athletes are good enough, but sadly enough, there's some athletes who aren't good enough, and their coaches put them in positions where they're obviously going to be at an opportunity to lose, and as I was, it's a relatively safe sport, right? Fighting, right? I don't want to scare anyone off, but there are obviously some risks that come involved with any sport. It's we need to be safe, we need to be smart about it, and realistically, you are getting punched in the head. So there are some adverse effects that come from it. But on the brighter side, like for us here in SA, like we get MRIs. We have to have a physical before we get involved in any combat sport. Like we're protected as much as we can. We control our controllables. You know what I mean? And we've had athletes before at DFC who've returned a bit of a dubious MRI, and we've pulled them from the card. You know what I mean? We've had athletes on the day who the doctors haven't signed off on. So we want to protect the fighters as well and the athletes involved. But we need to be careful how we look after people.
Absolutely. And do you've come into the fight game relatively late in your life. Do you still feel fresh? Do you still feel good?
Yeah, mate, I wake up every morning feeling like $1 million.
Yeah.
No, some days I wake up a bit sorer than others, and I'll tell you what, the last couple of mornings have been super cold.
Yes.
I super know about it. So.
Awesome. So, Greg, DFC coming up on the 1st of August. Yep. Big card matchups being made as we speak, and a lot of anticipation. Now, you did mention to me you choose not to fight at your own promotions.
Yeah, I made the early mistake of thinking that I could probably wear many hats and obviously look after the show as well as competing on it. And lost to Jeremy Joyner, and fantastic athlete he is. He brought it to me,
but he wasn't running an event at the same time, was he?
Hey? Look, everyone I've lost to, like they've beaten me, and I'll wear that, and I'll say that. Yep, So there's certainly no. I'm never ever going to say that. Oh no. So I would have beat, I'd love to run it back.
That was me. I was making excuses for you.
I'd love to run it back with every single person I've ever fought, and win, loss or draw. I'd be like, let's go again. But like running a show and then competing is just very, very stressful. In particular that fight itself, the Joyner fight. Like I was at the venue till probably 1 o'clock the night before, making chairs set up, setting the cage up, getting everything done, and going home and sleeping, and then trying to compete the next day, and then dealing with issues on the day and things like that. It was just probably not a good lead up, and didn't set myself up for victory. And then the other fella I fought was Ben Sassoli, and he's got some heavy hands as well, the old Combat Wombat. And he
that's an awesome name.
Combat
Wombat.
He's probably the
could be the new name for the podcast.
Combat Wombat. Yeah, do go on.
He's the heaviest hitter I've ever fought, because normally I get punched and I remember what's going on, and I remember that particular fight. We had a bit of a flurry, and then I've tried to drive him up against the cage, and then I remember getting punched twice, and then the referee standing over me waving off, and I was like, come on, mate. His name was Sharpie, Greg Sharpie. He was calling off. I was like, come on, Sharpie. Like, he only hit me twice. and then go back and watch the video, and he hit me twice, plus about another 100. And then I was like, all right, no, yeah, fair call. All right, yeah, I'll pay that. So, yeah, he's the only person who's ever really removed me from my consciousness enough to not be there. I was still there, but I just was obviously just the back, right at the back, not knowing what was going on.
And that was enough for you to say, okay, well, that's not going to work out running the event.
Yeah, let's look for opportunities in the state.
Yeah. And are they easy to find at the moment with COVID restrictions? And how is the fight, the MMA industry recovering from COVID?
Well, hey, look, everyone seems to be back full steam ahead, putting shows on. And the shows are being well supported. Still, we've been there in the middle of Australia, but third world's most livable city. So shout out to Adelaide.
Heaps good. Hashtag heaps good.
Right. Like we need obviously some more athletes to come over here. And our show is generally heavily supported by people in Victoria, New South Wales, and Queensland, being that's where the population density sort of resides. So overall interstate things are looking pretty rosy for most people. Over here, we need to make sure that we're pretty smart with how we line people up, and obviously, again, encourage people to come out and local athletes to be able to come out and support our shows.
Really tricky to run a show, because I know that there was earlier speculation of a DFC in July, and then with the outbreak in Victoria and the change to the schedule with the AFL, that means you've got to change plans and perhaps even matchups. What kind of effect is that having on you guys?
It can be detrimental. So obviously, when they announced the lockdown, obviously myself, Craig, and some other interested parties, we got together and just had a bit of a conversation. What are we thinking about? What do we need to do? Being that it'd be unfair for any of the athletes who are matched from Victoria. Currently, they're suffering they can't train. So we would expect that if we were to still have our show in July, even though it looks like restrictions are about to be lifted today, there's still so the lockdown's been lifted, in Victoria, but there are still some pretty heavy restrictions for gym goers, etc. Meaning that they wouldn't be able to get in and train, and is that really fair? And one thing that Craig, as the matchmaker, prides himself on is making sure that fights are fair.
Even with Victorians.
That's great.
Even Victorians, cool.
Yeah.
No, if fights weren't fair, Craig would have matched me up with some nice easy wins for me. But it didn't, that's for sure. So that's how we look at it. You know what I mean? We want to make sure we're providing these guys an opportunity, because again, we have athletes who might only compete once in their whole entire life. We have guys who have one fight, one and done, win, lose, draw, it doesn't matter. They just want to get in there and they want to test the waters. So and we have guys who a career, try to make a career of this. You know what I mean? Like, we want to provide them with the best opportunity. And if they've had a hampered progress or a hindered, like run up to an event, every fighter is normally going to have carry an injury. Every fight, if you want to fight, you will have. I've never gone into a fight without an injury. I've never gone into a fight where it's, mate, I feel the bee's knees.
Without
there's always something hanging over the top of you, and if you don't, it's generally because you're not training hard enough. Right? But we want to make sure that these guys are given that opportunity. We want to make sure that any athlete who does compete on a DFC show puts their best foot forward, has the opportunity to present themselves the best, and showcase their wares. So that's why we decided to push the show back to August, to make sure that these guys who have been locked down. So thankfully, every fight that we had matched together has pretty much stayed together. And now as we sort of ease out of it, they'll have about 6 weeks, hopefully, to be able to keep their preparation going and get back to it.
So what young talent's exciting you in MMA right now?
Adelaide based?
Around Australia, around the world?
Around the world, around Australia. Well, generally, I'll just shout out, like I said, to the young lads coming through Cardioflex at the moment. So we've got Jed and Carlos, probably the two young. We've got a couple of others simmering away as well who haven't been unleashed yet, but they're good. Overall, like, MMA itself is growing. It's it's a bit of a cliche, but it's the world's fastest growing sport. But there are there's fantastic talent coming through. On a national level, there's fantastic talent coming through on a world level, and then even to Adelaide. So certainly I'm excited by all the prospects.
Yeah.
I can't really get enough of MMA. Sundays at my house are a tradition at the moment. I get on the couch, put the UFC on, and watch Fight Pass with my youngest, and it's great.
Fantastic. And what will you say when your young fella says, Dad, I wouldn't mind having a go?
I'd encourage it. Not again off the like I said right at the start. I think one of the issues that we have in this world today are sort of blown out of proportion, like I feel, and getting punched in the face is one way to make you realise that shit, things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
As debased as that is, like, if you really want to trace it, violence is the most basic form of human communication. So if I ever walked up to anyone when I couldn't speak a lick of English and they didn't know I speak a lick of English anyway, and I said, "Hey mate, what are we doing? I want you to do this," and we didn't know how to talk to each other. We'd just fight. And then the victor and the one who ever won would generally be like, "Yeah, I'm going to do whatever you want, mate, because you're going to beat me."
Yeah.
So like, to me, it's important, and you watch kids when they grow up as well, like young ones, and they start to push their boundaries and test, and not that we want to encourage them to be physically hurting each other, but to be testing each other, I'd be more than happy to. And like for my kids in particular, I'd encourage them. Like, yes. There's a lot of good merits that come through being involved in a combat sport. There's a lot of fantastic studies out there which demonstrate that kids who are involved in a combat sport are generally less likely to be bullied, and also on the reverse side to actually be bullies.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at why people bully themselves normal, or why are bullies normal. And it's a very broad paintbrush, but we won't delve into it too much. But generally, they're being bullied themselves somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're scared. They want to try to reassert themselves. They have dominance, and that's what they do. Whereas kids who've got that knowledge and that skill set understand, well, I don't need to pick on people. I can beat this person up, and they're confident in themselves. So to me, that's what martial arts provides, and what a combat sport can do is it actually promotes self-esteem. So like they've got self-esteem within themselves, and they don't want to go and bully people.
Yeah.
They don't feel the need to, because I'm comfortable with my own skin, and it's one of the great things that I think about combat sports.
Yeah.
So when my son taps me on the shoulder, when my daughter taps me on the shoulder and says, "Dad, I want to get in there and have a crack," all means, let's go.
Excellent.
That's awesome. And that's really they're really lucky to have that, because I definitely haven't had a single person, as we discussed last week, and that's just boxing, let alone MMA. Yeah. So they're very lucky to have that, and that's really good to hear.
We've got some listener questions. We had an anonymous person wrote in. We'll just call him Craig I. He wants to know how you got your nickname Marv.
Right. Okay. Well, Craig I should know this. Right? So apparently, all right, I don't know if anyone's seen a bit of a movie called Sin City.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then there's this really, really good looking dude in it called Marv, and Marv just kind of adopts a bit of an attitude of like he accidentally hurts people all the time, but he a bit of a thug, a bit of a brute, but he does things. He's got his own sense of chivalry, right? So he does things like with his own sense of purpose. And sort of doesn't really mind what sort of happens to other people along the way. So I do mind. So I don't know where this comes from. Like I do have probably a bit of a messed up sense of chivalry, I guess, to a degree. But like I also have been known upon occasion to hurt people at the gym accidentally. It's never deliberate. It's never deliberate. So next time, or when if you ever happen to see this Craig I, ask him about it's not my nickname, but I found someone in the show who referenced to in Sin City who referenced him pretty well as well. So
it's a good character though. Marv is an awesome character, and that's he did have a follow-up question, and that was why does he sweat so much?
Why does Marv sweat so much? Well, it's actually the fitter I get, the more I sweat, and there's actually a condition for it. I forget what it's called at the moment, but it's just like basically because your body, you're 60 or 60+% made up of water, and my body just goes like, well, you need to cool down. So I work pretty hard, and then my body just goes, well, I need to get out of that. And so once my core body temperature gets up, it takes a long way to come down. So
it's just super efficient.
Yeah, just super efficient to train. It's like we need to stay cool.
Yeah. So, there you go. We've got one of our guys similar with that, with the arm wrestling, but his hand is like trying to grip hold of like a wet fish,
It becomes super useful for fighting. Like I remember the first time I walked out to my fight, my very first fight, and you get towed down by the referee and that. And obviously we've been doing some work out the back, and so I was sweating, probably sweating bullets. And the dude's like, "Get out of a pool." It's like, "Did you spray yourself with water?" And I was like, "Nah, I didn't." And one of my secos said exactly the same thing as well. Like when I was doing some training for something else anyway. And I've walked. We were carrying some stuff from one dorm to another. He's like, "Hearne, just get the fuck out of a pool." My gear was soaked. I was like, "No, I just sweat a lot." So.
Working hard, that's what you're doing.
That's it.
So with DFC coming up, we've got some of the best fighters who are going to be descending upon Adelaide. It's super exciting, and it's great for the MMA fraternity that you guys continue to put on a world-class event, mate. And on behalf of all of those guys, thank you, because for as you were pointing out, for a lot of these guys, this is their first opportunity to enter the ring or enter a professional fighting environment, and for others, it's a stepping stone to greater things. We were talking about Shane Mitchell just a little bit earlier, for instance. So another fantastic talent that's on the brink of the UFC, and great for the young guys around the club and who go to watch these events to be close to somebody like that's on the brink of greatness.
Yeah, it's certainly and again, and I bang on about it a fair bit, but like, the MMA community or any combat sports community is generally a lot different to how people would perceive it, So it's great that we can have young dudes roll around the gym, you know what I mean? Like, you get some 12, 14-year-old kids who walk in and they're just immediately surrounded by some of the best talent in Australia, right? And they get an opportunity to train with them, and they've got an opportunity to go up and talk to them. Being that I've been involved in security was involved in security for a while, like, I've come across a lot of professional sports athletes, right? And I can tell you that I've watched some people who are absolute pigs when it comes to how they deal with fans and how they deal with people. And in a combat sports, like, I've come across some absolute gems. So the last time the UFC was here in Adelaide, at the time he wasn't the champion, but the current UFC featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski, was standing out the front of the Adelaide Entertainment Centre, the little joint at the cross in the middle of the thing there where you can get coffee. Yeah. Him and his coach are out there, Joe Lopez, and they're just waiting to get a coffee. Right, and people are coming up having a chat with him, and this is undoubtedly one of the world's most dangerous men in the sense of, like, he can towel up most people, and he's just, "Yeah, you going, lads?" Like, and he's quite happy to provide his time for people. Like, people like that have attended our shows. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they're quite happy to sign autographs for people. They're quite happy, like, if you look at, like, we've had the Mokhtarian brothers over who fought in the UFC. We've had Alex Gorgeous who's come over as well. They're quite happy to share time with people. We've got Jimmy Crete, one of the light heavyweight top 10 at the moment. He's been to our show. These guys come to our shows and they're quite comfortable with their time. They're quite comfortable to go out and speak to people. You know what I mean? Like, I guess, if I look at how I look at it as well, like, a lot of these people look at it as a gift. Like, I get to fight and I get to make a bucket load of money doing it. Like, this is fantastic. Like, they're quite happy to go out there and share that their time and really appreciative of it. Because I felt like in some other sports that I've been in and around and involved with, they don't necessarily appreciate it so much anymore. It's a bit of a hassle for them. Like, and it's like, well, maybe because MMA is in its infancy, that it is still got a bit of a novelty factor on it. And it's like, great, cool. And it's not as well publicly known, or we might be the world's fastest growing sport, and people certainly do like to go and head to the local pub on a Sunday to watch a UFC. Big one on this weekend. Obviously, we've got Israel defending his belt. So the casual fans are more aware of it, and so I guess those people at this show are a little bit more appreciative of it, and that when they come up and they speak to and see these guys. But certainly, as the sport does continue to grow, maybe we'll see that change, but hopefully not. Yeah.
Well, and before you go, let's get your thoughts on the upcoming UFC.
Izzy for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You didn't even know you're fighting, but
thank you very much.
And more just basically because, like, you support homegrown, even though not necessarily homegrown, but he's from
once they become
Nigeria.
Successful,
of course.
If he starts losing, then
so he can go back to New Zealand.
Well, he was pushing me further away. African, mate. Yeah, champ. So cool.
Yeah, awesome. Well, mate, thank you so much for joining us here on the Daily Combat Podcast. It's been an absolute joy. Fantastic to hear your story and your plans for the future, and mate, whatever might come of this proposed next fight, we wish you all the very best of luck.